A successful journalist had died the previous November, just months after being diagnosed with uterine cancer. Her aging parents had taken it hard, and her father in particular seemed feeble and grew childish, deepening Jenny's guilt about leaving them alone in the family home in Maine. Then, just before Christmas, Jenny had lost her job as a secretary at the West End Street Railway in Boston, making her another casualty of the financial depression that had racked the country since the previous winter. Adding to that, she had developed an excruciating toothache, the result of a badly abscessed tooth that had been treated 3 times, but had so far resisted the ministrations of 19th-century dentistry. Jenny had found herself questioning what her life as a working woman was adding up to, with a string of insecure jobs, paychecks that never seemed to stretch to the end of the month, and moves from one lonely boarding house to another. "I'm so tired of living alone," she wrote to her sister Maud. "I have not gained much by being independent in the past. It's brought more heartache than anything else." She confessed she felt so despondent that she tried to make up my mind to kill myself, only I didn't have the courage. Jenny had returned home to take stock. "I think the shock to my nerves from all the trouble since Patty's death has kind of broken me up," she told her mother. When she arrived at Castle Tucker, which is what the locals called her family's turreted mansion on the Sheepscot River, her mother was shaken by the terrible condition her normally hale daughter was in, the trouble with her tooth compounded by bleeding piles from the arduous train journey north. All Jenny wanted to do was spend a quiet winter at home, but her respite was short-lived. 2 days after she arrived, on January 17th, she received a telegram from one of her old bosses, Charles Stoll, the only one she liked, and the only one who had treated her as more than a stenography-taking drudge. He asked if she was available immediately for a 2-month engagement in Washington, but didn't say what the nature of the work was. As much as she wanted to work for him again, Jenny hesitated. Physically and mentally, she felt depleted, and her mother needed her to get Castle Tucker ready for the paying summer guests who came to enjoy the Maine coast, the family fortune having gone the way of the cotton markets that built it. There was also the matter of money. Jenny was flat broke, and her clothes were so shabby that she had spent much of her free time the previous fall mending and reworking her old duds to maintain some semblance of fashionable dress. Why, she must have wondered, would Stoll need her to come all the way to Washington to do secretarial work when the capital, like the rest of the country, was awash in unemployed stenographers and typists? When she raised her concerns with Stoll, he dashed off a quick letter dismissing them. "Why, you, of all persons, are the last to let a little sickness affect your spirits. Of course you have not made money. Who has? Why, for 6 months I was scared to death," he wrote. And then he said she could name her price if she agreed to come. That settled it. Jenny cabled back that she would come for $15 a week, the most she had ever made, plus her travel expenses. Stoll cabled back a quick acceptance of her terms, plus $50 for expenses, and told her to go to Boston and await further instructions. The rest of the week was a rush of preparations. Not wanting to spend too much money on the new dress she desperately needed, Jenny took apart one of her sister's old wrappers, a loose-fitting, high-necked house gown that Victorian women wore belted like a robe, dyed it twice to get the color she wanted, and made what her mother called a pretty, tasteful dress. She packed and made arrangements to return temporarily to the Beacon Hill boarding house where she had been living. When Jenny arrived in Boston on Saturday morning, January 27th, a thick letter from Stoll was already waiting for her. When she read it and comprehended what he wanted her to do, she shuddered. "My surprise and the feelings which first crept over me cannot be described," she wrote him back. He had explained that what he wanted her to do was